Hello, ladies and gentlemen, Azuka here, bringing to you another video for Conqueror's Blade published by Porus Interactive. This is going to be the April 29th update, and I'm actually just going to skip over most of it. All the event stuff I don't care about. I'm just going to go straight into the things that I do, and that's going to be the new doctrine that they're introducing, and of course, the spear and dual blade changes. So let's get straight into it. So, the Doctrine pool is getting a rotation. We've got a new Fields of Valor Doctrine details. So the new Doctrine is for Buckler's Shattered Shaft. It's called Buckler's Shattered Shaft. Quality is epic, of course, applicable to Buckler units. Its effect is increases block by 240 and reduces ranged damage taken by 18%. The actual value is actually pretty incredible, but in context, it's not actually that valuable. The reason being is that you're a Buckler unit. Half of the shots get blocked, the other half you do take, but you don't normally want to be taking shots for free. However, it just makes it very incredible to just kind of fight while getting shot at. Whether or not this will take up a slot, it's another in question entirely. I'm not sure how all of the Buckler units are feeling, but you're more worried about fighting other melee units than you are fighting ranged. Getting shot by range feels terrible, but again, you got that shield, and you can normally just take minimal damage from range in the first place. But I've been in a lot of situations where you get shot to pieces, so I definitely do think if I wanted a very tanky buckler unit, I could definitely pick this up. Anyway, we also have the raised ancient battlefield that increases the epic doctrines for crossbow units. Fields of Valor, obviously that's the new Shattered Shaft one. It also apparently comes with. Meanwhile, the Buckler Shattered Shaft doctrine will not appear in other ancient battlefields during the event after Fields of Valor ends. Oh, that's not what I wanted to read. Well, basically it's saying that Buckler Shattered Shaft is exclusive to the Fields of Valor right now. But since it's the first, there is a first appearance doctrine bonus. So this rotation of Fields of Valor marks the first appearance of the Buckler Shattered Shaft doctrine in the ancient battlefields. After this Fields of Valor opens, you can choose one Buckler Shattered Shaft doctrine every 100 draws. Once the Buckler Shattered Shaft doctrine enters the Carrion Bow's Banquet, this draw bonus will no longer apply. So it's good just to do 100 draws. You get one free one, and of course, the 100 draws are completely separate. Event duration, Raise Ancient Battlefield goes from April 29th after maintenance to May 28th before maintenance. So you got an entire month. Pretty sure you can get 100 doctrines in a month, considering that there's probably a bunch of events that give you some treatises. If not, probably get them with the coins thing that you get. I forgot the name already. All right. We got the hero combat experience, optimization, and balance adjustments. To further improve Warlord's operation experience and combat feedback on the battlefield, this update includes combat optimizations and balance adjustments for the spear and dual blades. Optimize the animation transition to damage detection and engagement logic for both weapons to improve operation feel. Spear. We got Procrysis Gift basic damage coefficient going from 153% to 275% basic cooldown going from 16 seconds to 14 seconds. Additionally, we have the damage fall off target count going from 2 to 4. Fall off coefficient is 0. Fall off coefficient going from 0.7 to 0.75. So it was 30%, now it's 25%. So it's going to take at least. So you're only going to start dealing minimal damage at +4 targets. So at 8 targets, you'll start doing minimum damage. No, it'll be the 5th one down, 6th one down, 7 targets. Sorry, how that logic works escaped me for a second, but it's actually 7 targets. Minimum fall off ratio is going to be going from 0.25 to 0.35. So this is completely different from the minimum damage that you can deal. So this is the minimum fall off ratio. So if you lose 25% of your damage per additional target, you will only lose up to 65% of your damage, if that makes sense. So you'll do at least the minimum of 35% damage to all targets that you hit beyond 7 is inclusive? Inclusive of 7. So 7 inclusive. 7 and 7 and above. Yeah, that's how that works. Do note, this is actually even stronger than what they did for Maul. They changed Maul's target from, I think it was 3, might be 4, can't remember properly, but they changed the minimum fall-off ratio from 0.25 to 0.28. So this is actually a pretty significant change overall. This is very concerning, but because it's Prochrys's gift, I'm actually kind of confused because there's no way Prochrys's gift felt like it fell off like this. So I'm not sure if they just copied and pasted this here and don't understand what Prochrys's gift, but this could actually be a massive nerf to Prochrys's gift. If it is, good, because a ranged attack that deals this much damage even at every 14 seconds, that's still pretty hefty amount of damage. But I would still probably be afraid of the Spear Kick. Okay, Luge March, basic damage coefficient going from 54 to 108%. Added special effect defense to beginner and intermediate levels. Again, not entirely sure what defense is. I was kind of confused on the PTR because you can get block broken on the PTR, but you can't get block broken on live. So I'm not sure if that's going to be a consistent going to be a bug that comes in, or whether or not they fix that. So do watch out. Like I'm not sure if they actually did that properly. Obviously, they optimized the animation transition frame engagement and damage detection logic to improve operation field. I'm pretty sure that's just saying that you could probably adjust your. Well, it probably means a lot of things. It's just probably a catch-all term at this point. Similarly to the damage fall off going to be changed for the same amount as Christ's gift. By the looks of it, it's just going to be the same for all of these adjusted skills. Anyway, let's go over to Hurricane's Edge. And Luge March, of course, we're not going to get the 150. Oh, sorry. We're not going to get the 167% that's written on the PTR white papers. So that's good because that would have been absolutely terrifying. Hurricane's Edge basic damage coefficient going from 70 to 119%, dropping down their basic cooldown from 18 seconds to 12 seconds. Obviously, we got a repeat of the other two, so definitely going to be scarier when you're hitting multiple targets. And this is a good thing because Hurricane's Edge is, again, a kind of skill that really relies on hitting multiple targets to get its value. It's also now going to hurt like hell. Gunnier's Greeting, basic damage coefficient going from 64% to 141%. Second attack going from 51 to 143%. Added special effect knockback to the first attack. Same optimization and same damage fall off changes as above. One thing it's very unfortunate. I'm very upset that they didn't keep a much higher amount for the second attack, mostly because Gungnir's Greeting is competing against Hurricane's Edge. With this change, you're only dealing you're only dealing 429. 429% versus the 4 hits of 119, which means that Hurricane's Edge is still superior in terms of total damage output. Even if Hurricane's Edge second part didn't get adjusted. Now, that's going to be hilarious if they didn't adjust the second activation of Hurricane's Edge. Still, because that's actually really funny of how weak the finisher for Hurricane's Edge is going to feel. and I'm really surprised that it's not being adjusted here. But maybe this is going to affect both. Who knows? We're going to have to wait until Thursday. But again, Gungnir's Greeting is going to lack damage, so um, the value of Gungnir's Greeting is not high enough to justify its slightly higher cooldown. I think this is at I think this is at either 13 or 14 seconds. Hurricane's Edge is now at 12 seconds, so Hurricane's Edge is definitely going to stay as the meta skill. Well, again, just pure damage at this point. But maybe Gungnir's Greeting might come in because of the movement for the first hit. Who knows? Who knows? Maybe I'm just talking out my ass. Overhead Strike. Basic damage coefficient is for first attack is going from 63% going to 101%. Second attack is going from 65% to 104%. Now, absolutely really upset that Overhead Strike changes. The damage being reduced by quite a bit from the PTR one. Even though it has a lower cooldown, it's competing against Luge March as the recovery slot. So I'm upset that Overhead Strike is nerfed in this case. It kind of needed the damage in order to stay above Luge March, but again, the value of the recovery, you could just run both double recovery skill if you really wanted to. So maybe it's because they didn't want to have two high valued recovery skills. So that makes kind of some sense. It's still a strong skill, don't get me wrong. Because its damage is now worth it. Of course, it's got the added effect of removing daze and knockdown, not concussion. Luge March will have to be your concussion skill. It's got the same optimization and damage fall-off changes as the rest. Now on to the return of Jangar. I'm reading this, I'm super upset. First attack, we're going to get 76% to 114%. Second attack is going from 82% to 164%. Third attack is going from 172% to 258%. Attack, they're going to change the attack greatly reduces block value to guaranteed pierce. Added effect knockback to the first attack. So second attack does nothing, and the third attack causes a throw. I believe it's a throw. It could be a knockdown, but I think it's a throw. And optimization and damage fall off. Now, I am super upset that they nerfed the changes from PTR on Return of Dagna, because Return of Dagna is the only skill that still felt shit. That still felt shit. Its only real value is the guaranteed pierce, which in the current environment you might actually have to use if you want to have any impact against units that can block, which is really sad. So I'm really sad with the changes for Return of Jack now. and Gunnier's Greeting, but Lose March and Hurricane's Edge is definitely where it should be at. Overhead Strike, I can kind of see why they needed to reduce the damage, but I kind of felt like they didn't need to at the same time. On to Heaven's Fury. So surprisingly, they skipped over um, Dragon's Roar, which really needed something. Didn't give it anything. In fact, they didn't even give it the any damage increase. So that's really weird. So Heaven's Fury basic attack coefficient is going from 82 to 115%. It was 155 on the PTR, but understandably, because of the new sets, the Earth Shatterer set, I can see why they couldn't give it the 155%, but 115% is still a ridiculous 11,000, 50%, 50% scaling for the total damage coming out of this skill. Um, Basic armor penetration coefficient going from 100% to 120%, so you're going to deal a little bit extra damage against heavy armor, so that's going to hurt even more. So don't get caught by Heaven's Fury, especially if you're heavy armor. You're probably not going to survive. Oh man, um, I'm wondering how that interacts with their passive, which is 20% extra uh, armor penetration. So you have 20% extra armor penetration, and you have 20% extra you have a 120% armor coefficient on Heaven's Fury. So you get like what 144 in total if they multiply. But it's probably going to be 140 for practical reasons. Still, you can get some pretty insane armor penetration. So I would not be surprised if even Ironside short even a short sword in Ironside might feel the pain when they're getting hit by Heaven's Fury. So that could possibly be a thing. I kind of want to test that. But who knows? Interesting things. Obviously, you got the optimization. Wonder what the optimization for Heaven's Fury is going to be again for this one. Like they put this all as a catch all terms, but unless I see a direct comparison or thing, it's going to have to just be by feel. Damage fall off is the same as above, so hitting multiple targets shouldn't. So hitting multiple targets you should feel like a monster when you're fighting multiple people. So that's one of the biggest things is that hitting multiple people should not feel like you're hitting with a wet noodle all of a sudden. Normal attack. Oh, that's very interesting. They're actually adjusting the normal attack out of after considering everything else. There are some changes that are strange, but the normal attack for Spear is actually quite trash. So first attack is going from 65% to 132%. Second attack is going from 140 to 116%. Third attack is 126% to 120%. And fourth attack is going from 60 to 128%. Interestingly enough, I'm pretty sure that all of these have different damage types. I think the second attack being dropped down makes no sense because I think it's a blunt attack. I think the first attack going up makes sense because it should be a slashing one. Oh man, who knows? Who knows at this point? I'm trying to remember Spear's basic attack, but I barely use it because it's combinations of two attacks at once. Overall, still getting that big damage increase, but it's not as big as on the PTR. Still, logically speaking, no changes for Dragon's Roar. Like it's 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 the only skill that didn't get touched, besides its mounted combat skills. And one of the skills that needed changes the most. And especially since all of these things are getting a damage buff, Dragon's Roar just becomes dead weight now as a skill. I don't think anyone would even try it at this point. The cooldown's just so long. Oh well. On to Jewel Blades. Now, oh my god, I'm like losing track because it's not formatted in a way that I can read. Jewel Blades, Butterfly, basic attack coefficient going from 105 to 158%, basic cooldown going from 14 seconds to 8 seconds, optimize, and the damage fall off starting target going count going from 2 to 3. Fall off coefficient is going from 0.7 to 0.75. Minimum fall off ratio is going from 0.25 to 0.35. So similar to the spear, but the starting target coefficient count is going to be 3 instead of 4. So you're gonna still be able to hit multiple targets, but not as many. Interestingly enough, um, I'm wondering why they decided to make this distinction between the classes, and wonder how much of an impact that's going to have overall, considering that the considering that Jewel Blade probably nominally hits less targets than Spear, who has a slightly larger attack range. And I say slightly, but like if someone actually was to compare the hitbox, they'll probably be like, it's huge! Also, big problem with Spear is that it doesn't have very much mobility. Jewel Blade has so much mobility built into both Butterfly and Skylark, so there's that. Moving on, we have Skylark going from basic damage coefficient 77% to 154%. So big damage from both of these skills. A little surprised that they decided to drop the damage a bit. And the only reason for that is because the base slashing and piercing damage for Jewel Blade is very low, like ridiculously low. I think like it's 30% less than most other classes. Like I can barely get 1,000 if I'm not counting attributes. Skylark also gets the optimization and the damage fall-off changes with that 3 starting target. Bio Shuriken sneak duration available after the skill ends is going from 1.7 seconds to 2.5 seconds. Optimize the wind-up duration when triggering sneak. Damage fall-off got the damage fall-off changes as well. Interestingly enough, Bio Shuriken doesn't really care about hit target, but again, it's still valuable. It mostly relies on its bleed damage when it hits multiple targets, but in DM, this would probably be super valuable, actually. In DM in particular, because Bio Shuriken has such a wide range that hitting multiple targets is very common. Great Thunderbolt. Basic damage coefficient going from 153% to 200. Basic cooldown going from 18 seconds to 8 seconds. Sneak duration available after the skill ends going from 1.7 seconds to 2.5 seconds. Stun duration is going down from 1.5 seconds to 1 second. That's probably a good change considering how low the cooldown is. Increase the detection radius of Great Thunderbolt by 0.5 meters. That's actually kind of crazy. Half a meter extra in radius. So that means that they can hit 1 unit over. You could probably reliably hit like 14 units if they were spaced out normally. I think. That's how big of a change half a meter is. That's ginormous. That's ginormous. Oh my god. Um, and gruesome wound effect upon hitting with the concussion bomb against heroes is going to go from 20% to 30%, and against units is going to go from 30 to 50%. Now, that is an incredible change. Just the hit increase in hit detection alone is an incredible change, but also the changes to the gruesome wounds. We did have it; it's the same as before, but the application of it is going to be way easier and going to be super effective in against um, against units. So I would I would actually start thinking that Dual Blade might be closer to Musket in terms of gameplay than Chain Dart at this point. At this point, just because of the changes to Great Thunderbolt. Great Thunderbolt, basically a bomb skill, and it's probably the best one in the game now. You're the new musket. Just from this skill, you are now the new musket, which is absolutely hilarious. So you do musket's job better, and you're still an assassin because you could probably still run Mark for Death and still crump people into oblivion. Strangely enough, it does have also optimizations and damage fall off changes. So the damage fall off changes is mostly meaningless. You don't deal very much damage because you're blunt, because it's blunt damage and you only have like 600 blunt damage, so you only deal like 1200 1200 damage. So that again, they just applied it to everything, which is very surprising. Alchemic Vapors. Sneak duration when activated. The skill goes from 3 seconds to 6 seconds. Added effect during sneak. If not hit before hitting the target, gains brief crowd control immunity upon hitting the target. It says brief crowd control immunity, down from 2 seconds on the PTR. So interesting, interesting. It says brief crowd control immunity. So I'm wondering why they had to have that change. Was because is that is that an issue? Alchemic vape, like I don't understand why the 2 seconds would be an issue. Why did it have to change it to a brief crowd control immunity? Or maybe I'm just not that good of a dual blade player. If hit if hit by the target's attack first, gains a 40% damage reduction effect that gradually decays over 4 seconds. Um, Basic cooldown going from 24 seconds to 16 seconds. I honestly, oh, that's a good thing to note. So Great Thunderbolt remo didn't get the option of a alternate recovery skill, so that's interesting. Alchemic Vapor is still your recovery skill, your only recovery skill, sorry, and it's only going down to 16 seconds. So that's very interesting. That's very interesting. Um, Personally, I think Alchemic Vapors, oh, and Infiltrator, in fact, should be your recovery skills, and their cooldown should be much, much lower, because the only value that both Alchemic Vapor and Infiltrator gives is going into stealth, which are already covered by bow shurikens and Great Thunderbolt. So there is very little value to have skills that basically do nothing of value um, besides recover, and giving them both recovery, making them both recoveries would be excellent. Definitely think they should reduce the cooldown a bit more. It's actually very difficult to play dual blade when you don't have very many recovery options. I mean, because you don't have very many recovery options, you have to kind of like go. You can't fight continuously. Not that you would want to, anyway. Infiltrator. They actually adjusted Infiltrator. It's not much. It's basic cooldown going from 39 seconds to 30 seconds. I think they could have done a lot more than that. The problem with Infiltrator as well is that you can't sprint, can't jump. You can't sprint in Alchemic Vapor Sneak, which is also very interesting. So you have three different stealths, three different sneaks, which are slightly different from each other. So the Bow Shuriken and the Great Thunderbolt Sneak both allows you to sprint and jump. The Alchemic Vapor one only allows you to jump but not sprint, and the Infiltrator can't sprint, can't jump. Infiltrator is trash. These changes definitely not enough. Definitely needs way more changes for Infiltrator to even be used. Not to mention, probably need to adjust the epic set if they even cared about that. Um, because the epic set says it reduces all of the cooldowns except Infiltrator, but Infiltrator is reduced by 30 seconds. So man, that's basically a kick in the nuts. And Infiltrator as well is just like used to be super valuable because it was your only long it was well sorry it was your only other way to get into stealth back in the day. I think ambush used to also be way stronger. Deity's Footstep. Optimize activation conditions for Dusk and Pull and Ambush can now be used at any time during the dash. I hope they also remove the global cooldown. You do know that when you use Deity's Footstep, which is your dash and your stealth, um, there is a global cooldown shared between Buskin, Pole, and Ambush. So you got that 1 second of lockout. So you can't actually use that at any time during the dash. But it does feel better. The change is good nonetheless. Dusk and Pole, basic damage coefficient is going from 210% to 273. Not sure why they needed to increase the damage of Dusk and Pole. You're already reducing its basic cooldown from 15 seconds to 7 seconds. I don't know why you have to repeat yourself as well. Dusk and Pole can now be used during Deity's Footstep, optimization, and damage fall off. Same as above. It's kind of concerning why they would need to increase the damage of Dusk and Pole in this case. It already gives you a concussion, which is extremely valuable, and that concussion is also unblockable. Ambush. Basic damage coefficient going from 200 to 275, slightly down from the 286%, which is really weird because Ambush feels terrible to use, and I think it needs a bigger damage increase. Ambush can now be used during Deity's Footsteps, same as before. Optimization and damage fall-off changes. I hate this. Marked for Death, basic cooldown going from 45 seconds to 32 seconds. However, there's no additional effects, so that is a good thing. Still, 32 seconds is quite short. Quite short. Would definitely not have very much opportunity to take advantage of the downtime. But as long as there's no damage increase, there's no additional effects, and definitely no cooldown reduction on kill, I could live with this change. Again, Jewel Blade's kind of just been surviving on Marked for Death. Realistically, its basic skills have been pretty weak for a long time, relying mostly on Bow Shuriken to actually do anything. And finally, my absolutely favorite skill on Jewel Blade, the Dance of Death. However, the damage coefficient is not going as high as I would want it, or that was demonstrated on the PTR, but it is still pretty high. It's going from 81% to 130%. Basic cooldown going from 46 seconds to 24 seconds. So big decrease in basic cooldowns, which I think is much better than the 36 seconds. And losing a little bit of damage, not terrible if I can get to use this skill more often. Obviously, it comes with the damage fall off. I gotta stop throwing that around. Let me put that down. But no optimization, so it's still the same as before, but there's no there's no optimization, so I'm not exactly sure if they use that as catch-all term or if they've actually changed something. So if you guys notice any changes to the actual attack animations and stuff, do share. I do I do really love figuring out what has changed, even if it's just a very minor thing. And maybe you can just say it's just the hitbox feels bigger, or the animation just feels more fluid, that kind of stuff. The normal basic damage coefficient, surprisingly, is going back up. A long time ago, they reduced the normal attack damage by 20%. I didn't realize how high the coefficients were, and yet it used to be higher. The first attack is going from 94% to 100%. Second attack is going from 70% to 108%. Third attack is going from 94% to 104%. Fourth attack is going from 50% to 112%. Fifth attack is going from 94% to 188%. Oh man. Is it a 5 attack chain, or does this include the double hits? Bop 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 stab? Bop 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 stab. Well, that will be interesting to see what kind of damage output we'll be seeing with the normal attacks. It's only a slight increase, but we've got some that look pretty big. Again, that second attack and that fourth attack getting some hefty increases. So filling. Oh, sorry, and the fifth attack, the fifth finisher is going to be crazy, actually. Oh, and thinking about it now, they skipped over the sprinting attack, so that's a little bit upsetting. Um, the sprinting attack didn't get touched for spear or dual blade, so I'm wondering whether or not that might come into play, or whether or not they did change it and they just didn't state anything. And of course, for the normal attack, we got the damage fall off changing from 2 to 3, um, darting target going from 2 to 3, and fall off coefficient going from 0.7 to 0.2, going 0.75, and minimum fall off ratio from 0.25 to 0.35. All in all, for these changes, I do love the fact that they're doing something. I don't like the fact that it's a lot of damage right now. There's definitely a lot to be desired, but do tell, what do you guys think of the upcoming changes? Do you think that the upcoming changes are a good direction, bad direction? Would you rather a nerf to Bastard Sword? Those kinds of thing. I still have my worries. I still think that Spear is not going to change very much. I really do think that its main skills are still going to not change. Luge March, Arcane's Edge, and Precarious Gift. Maybe because Dragon's Roar is just so terrible, everyone will drop it, and just pick up an alternate skill, probably Overhead Strike for that second recovery. Or you could also use Heaven's Fury as that second recovery because it can recover. Um, it's a massive damage jump as well. Actually, I'm pretty sure Heaven's Fury is the meta spear skill. I think no one runs Dragon's Roar for a while now. Not that I've seen very many spears. I just don't think Dragon's Roar is of any value. For Dual Blade, I'm not so much concerned about Mark for Death because, again, it's a choke skill, it's very powerful, but Dual Blade's really squishy. If you're next to anyone, that Dual Blade's going to die. But this Great Thunderbolt, I don't, I, I'm going to be afraid that it's going to be a game changer because of just the increased radius. So I do hope they walk back this radius, but that probably not going to happen. This will probably hit live, and we'll probably just have to live with it. Nevertheless, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. But other than that, my name is Asuka. Have a nice day. Bye for now.